Hi, welcome back to the Dylan Rounds case. Welcome if you're currently here in the live chat. Just as a very quick catch up, if you're not aware of what's recently gone down, make sure to check out my video what I uploaded yesterday. There should be a link down below as well as a link top corner of the screen to click on. Make sure to check that out after watching this video, okay? It's quite a deep and kind of dark one, to say the least, okay? In addition, earlier today, this morning, I did upload another standalone video, some kind of mystery, of a body found in the Mojave County wash, okay, in Arizona. Kind of random, but it's talking about the wash, how a body showed up, was found there. And I was trying to associate it with the Dylan Rounds case and situation of possibly Dylan being in a wash and being pushed down by the rain, the water, the flow. So make sure to check that out as well. There will be a link down below in the comments section. For now though, I'm going to be sharing with you the latest updates and information from what Candice Cooley has to say about the ongoing search for Dylan Rounds. More to do so with the drone, okay? So, as we go along in the chat, you can leave your own thoughts, opinions, reactions to the stuff talked about, and you can also talk about other things as well, okay? So, as for the drone, I can't remember the exact name or title for it. Was it a full spectral drone or something? Basically, it's a higher end drone which has more capabilities. It can do more. I think infrared heat seeking or something. It's able to, I guess, look through objects and stuff to see if there's like a body or a person living in some way. I'm not an expert, but you get the idea, because it's one of those things where when it comes to drones, sure, like in the UK, you can see them maybe 50 to 100 pounds, 200, 300 pounds, and they might have a little camera on and then that's it. I think when you get to a certain extent, you need an actual drone license. That was introduced, I don't know, maybe so many months or a year ago, because before you could just fly them about, but you need a license now. Things got more serious. I guess it's because people are messing around with drones and it's led to maybe accidents or bad things happening. So that's how it is here in the US with their drones. They'll obviously have a full range of them, and like with any military, they have their own drones and UAVs too. As for the full spectral one, which has been used in the Dylan Rounds search, supposedly, just a brief backstory if you're not aware, there was supposed to be used back in the past, but Box Elder County said there were no pilots, there were no drone pilots around, which supposedly was a lie. Candice Cooley also said that the drones they do have resources of that, technology, yet they forgot or couldn't be bothered to bring the drones with them down when searching for Dylan. So it's like, a little bit odd, right? Isn't it? And as well, I think there's some talk about Box Elder County, in addition, some new information what Candice Cooley has revealed, so we'll get to that shortly. But yeah, linking back to the Box Elder County situation, they've got the resources, but they choose to delay things, call off stuff, or not bring certain items down with them. So not exactly professional, not exactly organised or prepared. It's as if they're doing it on purpose in a way. That's just how I interpret it, okay? So with those drones, the cost of them, pretty expensive. From what I've heard on Duty Ron's recent live stream, I think it was, about $14,000 and onwards and upwards. Can cost even more than that. So I guess it might have taken time to raise money or to get a hold of it. That's one thing. And then also trying to source out a drone of that capability and technology. And I don't know where it was now, maybe a few days ago, there was an update regarding the drone. Candice Cooley provided it on Facebook saying we have now received it. We're just awaiting people to pilot it. So with that little backstory out the way, the main purpose of that drone is to try and locate Dylan in some way or another, aerial view, get a good wide angle point of view of things looking down and maybe being able to penetrate through objects, possibly. I said I'm not an expert. Let's go on Facebook now and see the latest updates regarding the Dylan Rounds search with the use of the drone. Right, so on the Dylan Rounds Facebook page right now, scroll down, Candice Cooley, 12 hours ago, so it's fairly recent. Candice Cooley said, "We had the most amazing help today. Thank you, Heavy D and the whole Diesel Brothers crew. These guys are truly amazing and have helped us to try to find Dylan since the first week." So that's interesting, that. Now, I'm sure I read somewhere about the Diesel Brothers, probably my previous drone update. Now, the funny thing is, at the time I was like, who are the Diesel Brothers? Is that someone else out there? And then I realised in a recent video I watched of Heavy D's when searching for Susan Powell, they were wearing the t-shirts saying the Diesel Brothers and, advertising that because that's who they are. So now I know who they are. But yeah, Heavy D, referring back to him again, Candice saying that they were there since the first week, which is true. When you look at Heavy D in his first video of the Dylan Rounds case, it was like 3 months ago now. So it does tie in line with it. I'm just trying to think. So if that was the first week, I'm sure when they were flying over, you had the grain truck parked outside of the grain shed, so that ties in with June the 2nd, before that, where Jim Brenner was doing that spring cleaning and was allowed to by the LE. So you get the timeline, roughly speaking. Heavy D and his crew, the type of individuals who aren't actively searching for Dylan, nor consistently, though they've got the big resources, the equipment, the technology, to when it comes to being present, even if it's not often, they deliver in a way, providing different points of views and making the search a little bit more easier and accessible due to the equipment. I guess that's the best way of wording it. Though I will bring up a quick point now before we continue, because I do remember a couple of people mentioning it in the past, I wasn't aware, is that when Heavy D and his crew were present on the first week with Candice Cooley and doing that flyby over the farmland and surrounding area looking for Dylan or any clues, there was supposedly a bit of footage of a certain area. I can't remember where exactly, but that footage was deleted, edited, and removed from the final piece of video. Now, I don't know if this occurred right away or later on, but it must have been after the video was uploaded, because people did report seeing it in its original format. If any of you know or are aware of that, leave a comment down below in the chat right now, because it's quite important. Because if it is the truth, that is really, really weird and dodgy, that a bit of footage when looking for Dylan was removed and taken out. Why would they have to do that? It makes no sense. When you take something out, it's as if you're trying to cover up something, hide something, right? Unless it was a glitch, an error, or it revealed something private, details, location, and they had to take it out for privacy reasons, okay, fair enough. But if it's all true and it all ties in line with what people have said previously, then I wonder what's in that location then for it to be taken out of the final video. Let me know your thoughts down below, because it's quite important, right? So let's continue reading on the post here. So Candice Cooley also said, "The Diesel Brothers have offered assistance that is up and beyond what we could have ever imagined. They took the time to fly the EquiSearch drone today and will continue assisting us. Not only that, they shocked Justin Rounds and I when they said they are going to match the reward. Yes, you read that right. It will now be $200,000. They are truly dedicated to helping us bring Dylan home. Justin and I will forever be grateful to them. People like them changed the world. We will be posting an updated flyer and also be on the lookout for when we post their interview with Justin and I today, and more information on the technology we are using. So a fair bit to digest there. Main thing is the reward money shooting up. Kind of interesting that. I will dig a bit deeper in a second with my opinions and stuff. Let me just make sure I haven't missed any information. So Justin and Rounds and Candice are shocked by certain actions, which I'm not surprised because of coming across to Ellie and how they've handled things. We'll be posting. Okay, so a new flyer will be coming out. So I assume that's a poster. Okay. And the interview, I assume that's with Justin, Candice and the Heavy D crew once again. Okay, I think I understand that. Is there anything down below before we move on? Just a photo of Dylan Rounds once again. Okay. So that's kind of interesting. It shows, a form of progression made, as well as improved communication and cooperation too. So that's all positive stuff, and I'm sure to Candice, Cooley and Justin Rounds, it's a breath of fresh air. And for them to react in such a positive way is to be expected, considering how they've been treated previously with the LE. I know recently Ty Corbin and Lance have said that they're being more supportive towards the LE now at this point in this stage. Okay, fair enough. But you can understand why Candice, Cooley and Justin Rounds are almost relieved by a new presence such as Heavy D. I know they're not exactly new, but with the equipment and the piloting, that's new because that's not been done before. So it's a change of times, if you want to call it that. Now, as for the flyers, that will be interesting to see. I don't know, it's going to be like a missing person poster with the details on it once again. Last seen, last heard from, with the reward, the contact details, and maybe bits of extra information too. That will be interesting to look at, because if it is like the previous posters, it'll be interesting to see, is there any similarities? Has any information changed since, such as dates, times, additional info such as clothing worn, anything to do with the key fob, that type of stuff. Because if you haven't already, I have done an analysis and comparison of every single missing poster of Dylan from around the different towns, cities and stuff, okay? Some even in Spanish, comparing them all together, and there was quite a few inconsistencies and strange differences. If you want to check more about that and look into it deeper, there will be a link down below in the comment section pinned, okay, alongside the previous video I was talking about earlier on, right? So yeah, that's interesting. As for the reward money, that's another key thing, because it makes you think, first of all, it's good what Heavy D and the crew have done. Do you call it donating, giving that 100,000 into the prize pool, if you call it that, the reward pool? It's good what they've done, yes. Is it effective? Is it going to help? Is it going to change things? Well, that's debatable, as we've seen over time. I think first it was about 20,000, then Candice wanted to up it to 50,000, but Justin Rounds wanted to skip that and go right up to 100,000, and now 200,000. And what's happened through those stages of the money being increased? Has any new information, intel come out? Well, I don't know. At about $20,000 reward money, Kurt Wadsworth came out with receiving a call from a psychic about Dylan being held hostage, captive in a building in Montello. Kurt phoned the parents, told them all about it. They all came over eventually, including the police, and it was a false lead. Did Kurt Wadsworth do it at that point because of the $20,000 reward money? What do you think? Leave your thoughts in the chat. I don't think so, because, well, actually, there's a possibility that it was. But then you could argue, okay, well, if that's the case and he's doing it for the money, then why did he not do anything else when it got to the $100,000 mark, right? You thought he would have been even more encouraged, more than ever, especially if the town and the surrounding area of Montello is a little rough and people are struggling financially in a way, right? And yet Kurt didn't seem to reach out or give out any more intel or information. Or is it because, due to the first time of it being a false call, he probably was a bit more wary this time? Didn't want to waste people's time. Maybe he thought people wouldn't believe him if he came out with other information, you know? Kind of like where if you tell a lie or if you make a mistake and then it happens again and then again, people are less likely to believe you over time. So maybe he's holding back because he hasn't really got any true information, any solid concrete stuff to be guaranteed that money. That's why he's not done anything since. Or maybe he's involved in some way and he doesn't want to get too close to being caught out, possibly. I mean, obviously there's other people in Montello and around the outskirts and the odd few people in Lucin, and they haven't reached out either. So, like when Candice said, it does make you think maybe none of them really know what's going on or have any information, because if they did, then surely they would have come out by now, just simply down to the size of the reward money. It would really benefit them. Well, going off that mentality, then, what's the point upping it to $200,000, right? What does that really do? If no one came out at 100,000, is anyone going to come out at 200,000? There is a slight negative side effect in which what could happen, you up the money to a certain amount, then you could argue that the case becomes a bit more high profile, more importance because more money is behind it, so it catches maybe media attention, other news channels. It could be twisted and slanted a certain way, you never know. It might get the attention of more general public, which is a positive for spreading awareness, but then that leads to an increased chances of the odd few fake people coming along and toxic people that might come out and say, we've got information on Dylan, and they may make it as realistic as possible. Do you know, like more realistic than the first time of fakeness when it came to those individuals saying Dylan was held captive in Mexico and it was a Photoshop image of him in captive. People might step it up now with their own technology. You know, a small microcosm in the Dylan Rounds community, we've seen what's happened with certain actions and activity. Upscale it to a more serious situation. People could come in and say, oh, $200,000, opportunistic, fake it, lead to false hope, false leads. You know, maybe the end result is they don't get the reward money, but there might be desperate acts and attempts to get a hold of it, which could lead to, indirectly, more heartache and frustration towards Candice Cooley if she comes across it. So I'm just thinking long term of all the negative stuff that could happen, because I don't know what the situation is with missing people in the US as for reward money. I mean, what makes something high profile? What's the biggest reward pool for a missing person out there in the US? Is the one for Kylie Rodney? Not so much for the body because that's been recovered, right, but maybe for justice. Or even before the body was found, was there reward money, and what number, what figure was that? If you know, make sure to leave a comment down below just so we can compare. Along with if there's any other missing people out there, okay? If you know the reward money for finding that individual, whoever it may be, and it's a high amount, list that figure down below, because I just want to see where the Dylan Rounds situation weighs on the hierarchy, just in terms of the reward money, because if it gets to a certain point, that could be considered the most expensive one, and then it could catch people's attention. So one of those things where if you up the money to a certain amount, 300,000, let's say, and then someone starts talking, it really shows it's motivated by money, right? And not just out of helping the community. So you might see some levels of corruption. You never know. It's just worth pointing out. So With that aside, okay, there was talks about that interview with Justin Rounds, Candice, and I assume the Diesel brothers, right? Heavy D and the other guy with the beard, I assume. I don't know if that's been released soon or if it has already been released. I know there's that article, okay, which when we scroll down, I think by Fox 10 News, I will click on that, read through it, see if there's any additional information right now and analyse that too. There might be a video clip, I'll just see what it is first, don't want to get any copyright issues, okay? So let's analyse that right now. Right, so here we are on the article and it's titled Family of Dylan Rounds Continues Searching for Clues with Help from Diesel Brothers. Now there is a video attached above this which I will play. I believe the text here is the transcript of it, but I will play it in both formats. First of all, I'll read it in text as it's easier for me to interpret on the spot and break down things and analyse, okay? And then I'll play the video, we can check for new potential footage, body language of Candice, and the drone itself, okay? So to begin with, this is by Emily Tenser. It reads, Box Elder County, Utah, the family of missing teen Dylan Rounds hopes new technology can help identify clues connected to his disappearance. The 19-year-old from Idaho was last seen near his property in Lucin, Utah, around Memorial Day weekend. I mean, they keep saying the 19-year-old. He is 20 now. Shouldn't they be keeping it relevant, just like with the missing person reports? Because the next time you may find Dylan or find a missing person out there, they're not going to be the same age they were when they went missing, right? So they should be keeping certain facts and stats up to date. As well, when it says last seen near his property in Lucin, last seen? Wait, last seen? The way it was worded was Dylan was last seen on the 26th or the 27th, either both dates, at Saddle Saw Bar. And then on the 28th, yes, he was present at his farm, his place of living. And that's supposedly where the phone call came from, when he was last heard from. Just take that in mind. There's a difference between last seen and last heard. Seen is something more physical, a witness watching somebody present at a certain scene at a time. Being heard can be more like digital technology, communications through the phones, that type of stuff, where you're not present, but you can hear their voice, and through tracking, I guess, the phone connection and the call will reveal the location of where the individual was from. So once again, language a little bit shady here and there, so sometimes it can cause confusion, but hopefully that makes sense to you, okay? As well, when it says last seen near his property, I assume that's his place of living, his farm. Though he successfully parked the grain truck, so technically it would have been last heard or last known activity, if you want to word it that way, at the grain shed. But does he own the grain shed? Because from the way it's been worded over time, Jim Brenner is the caretaker of the grain shed. So does that mean he's the one that owns it? And then, because with talks of Dylan wanting to buy the grain shed, from what Candice said in a recent interview, that's, the situation at the time. So he doesn't own a grain shed, but he's kind of like either renting it, borrowing it, using it just to store things. So, once again, that needs to be cleared up when it comes to these news reports. Anyway, let's just carry on reading. It says, Box Elder County, the LE, Sheriff's Office, says homicide likely occurred. Okay, likely. That's what they've said. I mean, understandably, it's one of those things where if you doubt it, that's understandable. Considering the way LE have been, you can question everything, and there's nothing wrong with that. It also says television stars the Diesel brothers flew their helicopter to Lucin on Thursday to assist Dylan's family with a drone they acquired from Equisearch, a missing persons organisation based out of the Midwest. Yes, we saw that with that previous Facebook post of that drone. So yeah. It also says, Diesel Brothers have also agreed to match the family's $100,000 reward to find Dylan as well. That's quite a lot. The drone is equipped with special lens that will take pictures to be sent back to Equisearch to be analysed. Okay. So a special lens. So what? It picks up heat, coldness, thermal imaging, that type. Yeah. It says in quotation, if Dylan was killed and if his body was buried out here, this has the ability to pick up on soil disturbances and anything that a cadaver could penetrate in the ground around it, said Dave Sparks. So that's obviously a good thing, right? I know there's been constant talks in the past and in recent time about getting the cadaver dogs out there, left, right, and centre. And maybe it has been done here and there, but not as much as expected. As well, you're kind of limited with cadaver dogs, digging one spot at a time, move from one location to another. If you've got a drone which covers a full wide angle, an area looking down, you can cover a lot in a very short space of time, right? You just take one picture like that and then it can be analysed, and whatever's on that image, that surface area, which is greater than a cadaver dog, it's more efficient, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's how it seems to be. The way it's worded is, so it's like doing what a cadaver dog could do. So does that mean it's not greater than what a cadaver dog could do? It's on similar terms in terms of performance, which I'm sure is still helpful. Soil disturbances will obviously occur if someone has been burying something. Now, you got to be careful here because depending who's been where, like Salty Pancakes, Kurt Wadsworth, being on the farm, providing they've not disturbed any soil, dug anything up, buried anything, shovels, etc. As long as they haven't done that, then things should work out okay. I mean, from what Candice has said in the Facebook post so far, it's been fine. Now, I don't know if they've completely finished their investigation with the Diesel Brothers or it's still ongoing, but up to now, it seems positive, which is something, right? It'll be interesting to see if they used the drone on the dirt mound. I mean, it's one of those things where you could say it's a bit silly because they could take a photo and then say the ground's been disturbed, and then it's like, well, we were the ones that did it. But then it's kind of like, well, are you sure though? Because with Candy saying it has been disturbed, it hasn't, it hasn't, what are you supposed to believe? So I guess there's no harm in using the drone on that dirt mound, because that would definitely signify and reinforce whether it has been dug up or not. Just to set aside all the suspicion and questions, it would actually be helpful if they took a picture of that, right? So let's continue on. It says also, known as Heavy D. In fact, this technology is so potent that the federal government banned it for a while. There had to be a court ruling basically saying, no, this is helpful, this is good, go use it. Okay, so basically it's pretty effective, and I guess maybe it was banned for a while was because in the wrong hands it could derail cases possibly. You think about it this way, if the criminals or somebody who's gone rogue has access to a drone like this, gets involved in some kind of missing person case, let's say a completely different one out there, ends up ruining an investigation or crime scene search because they got there beforehand, found certain land, turned up disturbed, and went there and dug up whatever and removed whatever and then hid it elsewhere or took it far away. Obviously, in the wrong hands, it can be used for bad reasons and it can screw other people over. So I guess I understand the restrictions in a way. I mean, it's only be like with certain military equipment and weapons. I guess the same applies now too. Anyway, let's continue reading. It says the Rounds family and the Diesel brothers searched the land surrounding the property where Dylan's truck and bloody boots were found. Oh, I see. This is our ground zero. Right here is where it started, so from there we'll work our way out with the technology and see if we can find something, said Candice Cooley, Dylan's mum. See if we can find something. So that implies that they haven't found anything yet at ground zero. So from the way it's worded, ground zero, such as the dirt mound, nothing was found there, even if pictures were taken of it. Is that correct in saying that there's absolutely nothing at ground zero from what Candice Cooley has said so far? I mean, have they already started analysing photos of ground zero and that's why they've come out with the statement, we've not found anything yet? I don't know, because I don't know how long it takes to analyse these photos. I don't know if it gets directly sent to Equisearch as like a live stream, some kind of data transfer, wireless, Dropbox, who knows how it works, but it seems to be working somewhat efficiently where they start off and how they spread out. So that's, organised. That's good. Is there anything else? Let's scroll down a bit. It then reads, in July, Box Elder County sheriffs identified James Brenner as a suspect, a man who was squatting on the property of Dylan's last cell phone ping. He's on the trial for federal firearm charges. Well, it depends how you interpret that. They say firearm charges, but the way it has been worded in recent time on other news channels as well as Candice, he's on trial for a firearm charge, not charges, charge, one firearm charge, which is supposedly the .22 caliber rifle which Don Hatley surrendered in and grassed up on his friend Jim Brenner. So let's get that right, okay? As for the last cell phone ping, they're basically saying it's literally on the property where Brenner lives and the grain shed. But I thought the last cell phone ping was further west, approaching the mountainous area and the border onto Montello, Nevada. You know that ground where it was slightly white. I can't remember how many miles now, probably 2 to 5 miles from the grain shed to that place west. So I don't know why they're saying it was the final phone ping was at the grain shed and near Brenner's place of living. That's incorrect, unless there's been new updates since. I've not heard of anything like that. Leave your thoughts down below because, I could be wrong. I don't feel like I'm in a position at the moment to be criticising people for misinformation too much, when it especially comes to these news channels. But like when it came to the Kenny Veach case, got to the point where I knew the situation, the dates and bits of details. And when it came to looking at articles, it was misinformation after misinformation. And it's like people of that profession should know better. I don't think I'm in the position just yet to be going full on in right now, okay? I might be wrong with certain details still at this point, just going along, especially with all the switching and changing of info and dates. It's hard to keep up with stuff. But from reading it up to now, it just seems like there's certain information that's a bit off and not quite right. Let me know if I'm correct in the chat right now, okay? Anyway, it continues to read, in August, the Elko County Sheriff's Office and Box Elder Sheriff's Office and Search and Rescue obtained a search warrant for a parcel of land in Nevada owned by James Brenner. Investigators used cadaver dogs, drones, and archaeological excavation procedures, but no evidence was found. To basically explain that, because it's not exactly worded clearly, when it says a parcel of land in Nevada, they mean Montello, Nevada, nearer to the mountainous region and the border, and the piece of land, or as it says, the parcel of land, was Jim Brenner's former place of living, which was a trailer which turned out to be burnt down when the investigation was underway. Lance from Earthworm Entertainment did previously come across the location and it being burnt down, assessed it, recorded it, reported it to the LE. So did Doug from No Thanks. I think Ty did as well. And with a bit of pressure and with a bit of noise and consistency, the LE finally went down to investigate. Bear in mind, the trailer of Brenner's Vat burnt down was originally 2 years ago. In recent time, people have said it's 1 year ago it burnt down. Kind of interesting how information is switching and changing there, which isn't great, but still, if it's 1 year difference, then obviously it doesn't tie in with Dylan Rounds. But it does make you think, with this differentiation of dates, 1 minute it's 2 years, then the next it's 1. You know, is someone going to suddenly come out with and say, oh, actually, it's only like 3 months ago? And it's like, whoa, then maybe it has got something to do with Dylan. That's not for definite yet, but it's just a little mini prediction because, you know, with all this information changing, it can slant how theories are created and thoughts are developed, right? But yeah, that's why it's talking about Brenner's former living place, the trailer, which burnt down supposedly by accident. And yes, the likes of Lance and Kimber, who were present there previously, as well as in the car when the police went down and the convoys of equipment, you saw it all unfold from there on. Salty Pancakes got in on it as well with his driving, but not in the area, claiming he was or something. So he got a bit of media attention there. I mean, fair play to him that he has, you know, been out there, obviously, boots on ground. So he's done his part previously, okay, so you can't count that out. But yeah, you get the idea of what it's talking about now. Anyway, it then says, Dylan's family is asking the office to let go his lead on the case, saying the department failed in handling evidence and persons of interest. They're asking the state or FBI to take over. Yep, we've heard all that. I'll just keep reading it out just in case there's anything that we've not seen before, okay? From the day Dylan's boots were found 300 yards from us, that should have changed everything, said Candice Cooley. Oh, 300 yards. The last time I heard, they said it was 200 yards. So, once again, little bits of information switching and changing. I know it's nothing critical, but, you know, it's still switching and changing of information, okay? As well, like when people said, oh, it's like 30, 40 miles from Montello to Lucin. Not quite, because when I did a distance check, I think it was only like 20-something. So once again, you know, Anyway, says the family claims the county released important clues that were meant to stay confidential. Cooley also said communication has been scarce. Now, as for the important clues being released accidentally, it poorly describes it here. So if you're unaware, basically, the important clues are the key fob. The key fob to Dylan's vehicle that went missing along with his wallet, phone and gun. Whether it be on Dylan or the suspect, or it was passed around, was taken for some time. And it was only, I can't remember the date now, it would have been the date when Kurt Wadsworth made that phone call when he received it from the sidekick and then told the family that Dylan was being held hostage in Montello. So as all the family went down to Montello that time, which was probably 2-3 months ago, 4 months ago, arguably, and the police went down as well, that's when the key fob reappeared in the trailer, I believe, at Dylan's place of living. So it was taken away when Dylan went missing, and then it was placed back later when all the people, the police and the family, weren't present in the area because they were diverted elsewhere. So you can think of it as a decoy. It's questionable to who it could be. Kurt Wadsworth, Jim Brenner, someone that wanted to put it back, maybe to reduce suspicion, maybe, or to play games, who knows. But yeah. And as for that key fob, we actually heard about it publicly on the Nam Us report. Now that wasn't supposed to happen. It was supposed to be kept quiet, confidential. there is 2 versions of the NamUs missing person database report profile online. You got a public one in which family members and stuff can access and set up a profile if it's approved by the police department of the area, I guess. And then you got a private police profile, kind of similar, but it's got extra details and more private confidential information, such as the key fob, which was added onto the wrong profile, the public one, hence why it showed to us and why we saw it for a period of time. After that, it was taken away, and obviously, for obvious reasons. But yeah, that's why it's basically talking about the key fob, okay? Right, let's carry on. It then says, in a statement sent to Fox 13 News, the Box Elder County Sheriff's Office wrote that the department requested for an independent investigation on how deputies have handled the case. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. Box Elder County Sheriff's Office wrote that the department requested for an independent investigation on deputies and how they've handled it. So is that like the higher-ups? Because I know Candice Cooley has said that certain people within Box Elder County do a good job, but it's the higher-ups, the ones above that are in more control, that are the corrupt ones, or the ones misbehaving, if you want to call it that. So, yeah. It says Chief Deputy Cade Palmer wrote that the Department of Public Safety, Weber County Sheriff's Office and Weber County Attorney's Office investigators reviewed the investigative work that has been done. They established credibility in the Box Elder County Sheriff's Office investigation with substantial and pertinent evidence. Is that all to do with the forensics and getting another group of people to come in and review that forensic evidence and say it's substantial, it's pretty strong, they've built up a solid case or a potential solid case to do with the whole homicide investigation to do with Dylan's disappearance? I think it might all tie in line with that. It's not quite worded the same, but I think it could be. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm just referring back to a previous article I've read in recent time to do with Cade Palmer and his response to Candice Cooley wanting him to be dropped from the case, and he was like, what? It doesn't make any sense. We were here since the start, so we should continue. That's kind of like from his own words, right? And then they were talking about the homicide case and how it's been built and constructed. So I don't know if this independent investigation is to do with that, the forensics. If it is, then yes, it does tie in together, unless it's a standalone thing. Leave your thoughts down below, okay? It also says, local authorities continue to work with the FBI, the Utah Department of Public Safety, and many other agencies, the Sheriff's Office said. The office declined to speak on camera due to the criminal case still being actively investigated. A detective was at the scene while the Diesel brothers flew the drone around the property. The detective being present, is that just standard procedure? Is it to just make sure that everything's official? Who knows? But it's a good thing that the Diesel brothers were in control of the drone, so they most likely would have done a thorough check and done things professionally. Now, if it was down to Box Elder County to pilot the drones, yeah, they're probably qualified to, but would they do a good enough job? Who knows? They might cut around corners. Hell, if they found something, they might even delete the photos and hide them. You never know. Just imagine that. Imagine if Box Elder County were controlling the drones, took it off the Diesel brothers and said, no, we'll take it from here. And just imagine if they deleted photos of potential evidence. It really wouldn't surprise me. Though in this reality, it didn't happen. So that's something, that's a positive, right? And the bit about the office declined to speak on camera due to the case still being active, I don't quite understand how that all ties in, because is the office keeping anonymous? If they're anonymous, then that makes sense. If they're not and they're out in the public and working with people and they do show the face, then it's like, well, you don't need to hide your identity. Okay, you keep certain information and evidence confidential, but you can still talk and do interviews, because it would be one of the first press conferences or interviews, personal ones out there, because that's what's been lacking. That's what's not happened ever in the Dylan Rounds case. So it's like they're trying to delay it or hold off from doing it because they don't want to show their face on camera publicly, in a way. Kind of weird. What else does it say? Oh, here we go. Dylan's disappearance is frustrating, but it's also potentially still a glimmer of hope. People want answers. People want to know what happened, said Heavy D. If this was your son or little brother, what would you do? Dylan's family has received a lot of requests from people wanting to provide financial support to the search. They're asking anyone who wishes to help out and financially donate to EquiSearch so other families can use the same tools and technology to locate their loved ones. Now, that's kind of interesting, because I think recently I heard Candice Cooley saying that, unknown to them because they're not affiliated with it, either non-profit charities or organisations were set up to fund some kind of equipment or something to do within the Dylan Brown search, but Candice didn't approve of it because she felt the money was probably better spent elsewhere or towards more meaningful groups. I can't quite remember how it was worded, but basically it must have been other people that were setting up things and raising money. And now in the past there's been drama about all that with other channels, but I think that's flattened out over time and things have moved on from there. So with all that in mind, I guess we can play that video clip now, just skip through it a little bit and just see, okay? So I'll play the clip now. Hopefully the volume isn't too loud. I'll just turn it down a bit. It might sound a bit tinny. I'm not too sure. It's just because with the mic being turned on at the same time as the audio, it could conflict, but I'll play it anyway. I will stop and pause it at times, either to make notes, body language, behaviour, any of that, as well. It's necessary to provide commentary over this video just for the whole YouTube terms of service and everything, so there's no copyright issues, okay? So don't whinge if it is paused, okay?
Search efforts continue for Dylan Rounds, a missing Utah teen who was last seen over Memorial Day weekend. The Box Elder County Sheriff's Office is now saying a homicide likely occurred.
Dylan's family hopes new technology can help them find clues.
So basically, you'll notice that transcript, what we read before, is basically what's being said here, okay? In terms of the format,
Fox 13 News reporter Emily Tenser was with his parents and the Diesel brothers in western Utah today.
It's been almost 4 months since 19-year-old Dylan Rounds was last seen here in Lucin, Utah.
Now, one interesting thing is, it's probably just a standard because it's like maybe the entry point or the welcome point, but you see that sign behind where it says Lucin and you got the circle one. I've seen that used in a couple of thumbnails, maybe the Mob Crew or the Zav Girl, the videos on YouTube. And I've actually seen that. I've actually used that photo myself once or twice in one of my previous videos. So that's interesting, seeing it from that angle. Just reminds me. Oh, and Emily Tenser on here, who's this individual there. Is that Red? It doesn't matter. But she's the one that supposedly has wrote the article, I guess. Anyway, let's continue playing.
With the help of the Diesel brothers and a missing persons organization, his family is back out here searching for their son.
A desolate desert with not a single soul in sight for miles.
It's eerie.
I mean, it's kind of questionable that to say, oh, desolate, empty, not a single soul out for miles. Well, what about Jim Brenner, who was literally, a couple of miles away from Dylan's place of living, the grain shed? What about Don Hatley, that supposedly lives not too far away from Dylan's place of living too? So you got Don, you got Jim, you had Dylan, and then a couple of other farmers when you look around, because there is a couple. So it's not completely empty. As for that image on screen, yeah, it does look quiet. Candice just said it looks eerie, which understandable, because it would be, but there is still some kind of life out there. And, you got to take in mind what Candice said originally 3 to 4 months ago with the first Heavy D interview, saying that, oh, there's all trailers scattered around all over the place in Lucin. That's how she worded it then. So are we starting to see a shift of information changing, or have people that lived in Lucin then moved on since? I'm not too sure. In addition, when looking at that photo there of the grain shed, you can see the road itself. It appears there is a fence. Now, I assume that's normal. Correct me if I'm wrong. I can't zoom in on this, but on the right hand side of the screen, it looks like you've got a proper black fence. Can you see that? It's kind of in the middle of the screen on the far right side. Black fence. Now, I don't remember picking that up previously because I've not seen it from that angle before. But that's interesting. And on that dirt road, you can see fence post going right across it. So how do you get vehicles down it then? I mean, I know there was a gate, but is that the gate or not? I'm just trying to think of the distance, because when looking at it from Google Earth, it does appear different because you're looking at aerial view. This, you're looking down the range. So I'm not quite sure. Let me know if you know in the comments section about that fence, because I can see posts that are visible going across the dirt track, which is a bit odd. But yeah, let me know, okay? Let's continue the video.
It's truly eerie. You know he's here somewhere.
Missing teen Dylan Round's cell phone's last ping was here. His truck found in the shed and...
Well, they say the final phone ping was here. How can it be here when it was further west and it had a 15.4 mile radius? That's what I can't quite understand. And I know that 15.4 mile radius covers here, but it also covers further north, south, and west into Montello, the town. So it covers a fair range, right? And that marker, it was specifically put further west. So unless that was made wrong back then, but I've not seen it change since when looking at the odd few videos. Correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm a bit out of date, but I've not really seen much since. As for that grain shed, kind of appears how it did when Pancakes was there. I'm not too sure if this footage... Well, no, I assume this footage is literally up to date, because this is all coinciding with the crew, Heavy D's crew, Diesel Brothers, as well as Candice, Justin, and I guess the news reporter being present here to report, I guess, the development, the event with the drone. So this should be up-to-date footage of the place right now. So you can internalize it yourself. You can play back this video as well. Well, basically my video playing this, and you can visualize it further just to see if anything has been altered with the terrain, the environment, the building, etc. Now, I know some people will complain and say, does it really matter? If the family are there, they'll know. Well, yeah, but, you still might as well look at it as a whole, just in case they may have missed something. Just because you're present at a place, whether you're recording it or not, you can only see and take in so much at the time. That's why when third-party people come along, just standard viewers, general public, and watch it for themselves, they might pick up on something other people haven't. It's been proven before within the Kenny Beach case, so it's worth taking in mind. Let's continue.
His bloody boots near this pile of sand.
Right to us, this is ground.
Just want to replay that back.
Boots near this...
Well, isn't that interesting? How come now that dirt mound looks more new? Now, we've got to take in mind when certain photos were used, because the mob crew, when they used the photo of the dirt mound, I assume that was kind of relevant at the time and kind of up to date. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then Salty Pancakes stepped in and said, no, that's from 3 years ago. I think that was incorrect, what Pancakes said. Though, when you compared the mob crew and that dirt mound to this one, the colouring of it appears similar. It's light coloured. But what about the weeds and the roots growing? Maybe it's from the angle the zoom level, but when you look at it, you don't really notice much vegetation. And from what Candice Cooley has stated previously, you could see all the weeds on top. I can't really see much weeds on top. Maybe on the side, but not on top. From the mob crew, you could make out a few there, but wasn't a lot. So, kind of interesting that. I want you to feel free to leave your thoughts and opinions about that, the dirt mound, what we can see on screen right now. Do you think it's a possibility that it might have been searched again, or for the first time recently, just by the visual look of it? I know with people saying, oh, it looks more fresh, or it looks like it's been turned over. There's a possibility. And I know some people will still complain and say, yeah, but Candice Cooley has said that it has been searched. Why you keep going on about it? It's because it's the way it was worded at the time. It wasn't clearly worded with certainty. It was yes, no, no, yes. And that doesn't help, does it? So, yeah, just leave your thoughts, what you think about this dirt mound. And let's continue.
Pile of sand.
You know, right to us, this is ground zero. Right here is where it started. So from there, we'll work our way out with the technology and see if we can find something.
With the help of television's diesel.
Now, a little bit of body language from Candice there. Couldn't really make too much out. In terms of her voice, it sounded a little bit more emotional. You could hear a warble in the back of her voice. I know some people will be like, does that really matter? Why are you even focusing on that? It's just because I want to check for, you know, either consistencies or inconsistencies, because when it comes to these interviews, okay, she's appeared on, you know, YouTube channels and call-ins and interviews that way, kind of informal, but she has also appeared on more formal, like panels, you want to call that, interviews with the East Idaho News Channel, I guess even with maybe Fox News, ABC4, Utah, so a range of different areas. And for most part of it, she's kept quite, kept it together, didn't break down. And she has said herself that she wants to remain strong and stuff like that and keep on going and keep hope. That all makes sense. Leave your thoughts to how you think she was behaving then. So I'll just rewind it back if possible. You know, she's got the glasses on. I know people were saying that previously, oh, was that playing? Hopefully not. I know previously people were saying that Candice was wearing glasses and that was a method to hide her reactions, because supposedly one's eyes say a lot about a person, whether they're lying or they're thinking of something else, the pupils dilating and stuff like that. I guess it could reveal something. If you're wearing sunglasses, it can hide that. And also people sometimes wear sunglasses when they're having a hangover, so no one can see that they're drunk or were drunk. Now, I wouldn't say any of that links to Candice Cooley in this situation. She's simply wearing sunglasses because it's very sunny out there and bright. You know, it's going to mess up your eyes. So you want to try and subdue, in a way, reduce that exposure to the sunlight. So you wear sunglasses. You know, just wording it as it is. I'll just play it one more time if I can of Candice Cooley and her body language, just so you get a second look, and let me know your thoughts in the chat, okay?
In the shed and his bloody boots near this pile of sand.
You know, right to us, this is ground zero. Right here is where it started. So from there, we'll work our way out with the technology and see if we can find something.
With the help of television's Diesel brothers and a drone from EquiSearch, a missing persons organization, Dylan's family hopes this tech.
Okay, so there you go. Leave your thoughts in the chat about Candice Cooley and her behaviour. I think it was fairly normal. I mean, would you say that's a formal interview or semi-formal? You know, you're talking to, I guess, like professionals, journalists, reporters and stuff like that. So it's not very casual, but I guess in terms of the setting you're in, you know, you're not dressed up or anything. You're not seated. You're not got your hands and legs crossed. You're just literally there as things are unfolding whilst you're hanging out with the Heavy D crew. So it's kind of semi-formal, that. I mean, the only reason why I point out on these things, because depending on the environment you're in, you may act differently and act a certain way and behave a certain way when choosing what's appropriate at the time, okay? as you saw as well, you've got Heavy D Sparks in there. I think he's called Dave. That's the Dave. And then either it's his brother or his good friend, because I know when I was watching some older video, well, it was in February 2022, but I watched it just recently of Heavy D exploring a very deep mine shaft which was blocked when looking for Susan Powell. And, you know, he and his crew were obviously there, but he called in his brother, who is some kind of, works at the University of Utah, or one of them at least, and he's the true blood brother. So this other guy, which you see behind Heavy D with kind of like shorter hair and a long bushy beard, I think regarded as a brother but not a blood brother, so basically very good friends. I think that's correct in saying. Either way, they do kind of look alike, you know. But more importantly, you saw that drone, then the grey one. That's the one what you saw in that box when Candice Cooley posted that photo on the Facebook page recently. So you can see the compactness of it. It's quite small, because I know, you know, you think of drones like military ones, they can be pretty big, right? I mean, when it came to the Kenny Veach case, and when looking at like Google Map imagery satellite from 2019, it actually captured a military drone on camera near Jomé Canyon, which was very interesting. And the size of it, it was a fair size, and it was a drone. Obviously bigger and for other purposes, but you know, you get the idea. So this compact one of those things, sometimes when you get compact pieces of technology, it can cost more just because of the practicalness of it and the mobility. You know, if it's mobile, it can still do all the same actions as something that's more bulky and heavier. Then it will cost more because of the efficiency behind it. But you saw it as it was being raised into the sky then. Let's continue and see.
We'll do the trick.
In fact, this technology is so potent that the federal government banned it for a little while. And, you know, there had to be a court ruling basically saying, no, this is helpful, this is good, go use it.
The special lens will take pictures and send it back to EquiSearch to be analyzed.
If Dylan...
So that was interesting then. You saw the different lenses. There was a couple of them. I don't know if they're all put on at the same time, or you switch between it. You clip it on, send it up, bring it back down, put another lens on, maybe different filters, might reveal different depths. Not too sure about that, but yeah. As for that helicopter in the background, I'm not quite sure, I might be wrong, but I think that was the same one used when visiting Montello and Bald Eagle Mountain, when doing the search with Lance and Ty in the mountains with the mine shafts and horizontal openings. That's interesting. As well, in terms of Heavy D, his build, you know, he's quite big. He's got quite a lot of muscle. You know, the traps, the biceps, well built, much bigger than me, definitely. I don't know about height though. I don't know what height he is. Is he 6 foot, 6'1"? I'm 6'2". I weigh about 200 pounds. So I am smaller in size as well as build. But obviously he's like full on doing all kinds of activities and moving on the go. So that will go along with it. But yeah, interesting. Let's continue.
Was killed, and if his body was buried out here, this has the ability to pick up on soil disturbances and anything that a cadaver would basically start to penetrate into the ground around it.
In July, Box Elder County sheriffs identified James Brenner as a suspect, a squatter who was living on this.
Okay, so I think we'll leave it there. How long's left of this? 1 minute left. Maybe we can carry on playing it, I guess. I'll just pause it here and there. So yeah, that's interesting. I mean, it's one of those things where, okay, even if you're flying over, can you see ground disturbance? Maybe if it was very obvious, such as a dirt mound where it's big enough and it stands out and it's kind of 3D. But if it's been covered up well, it's been flattened down decently, if rain has occurred as well, maybe it's harder to see from human eyes. But if you can send technology up which is deeper and just as effective as dogs, then that most likely will pick up something a human may not, you know, with human eyes. So that's all interesting. Quick question, okay, I don't know if I'll do it as a poll or I'll just just ask you right now. You can leave your thoughts in the live chat, or you can leave a comment as well down below later. But whilst you've got this technology, whether it be the cadaver dogs, just literal cadaver dogs, or the technology of the drones which can check for soil disturbance, is any of it hindered or impacted negatively if it's rained, okay, and it's been a bit of time? So you go back to the, let's say the 29th, the 28th or the 29th of May, and let's say Dylan was buried underground in maybe a shallow grave or kind of a deeper one, somewhere in Lucid, okay, the ground's been disturbed, right? It's been dug up, it's been filled back in. You send a drone out, it'll probably detect it. You send a dog out, it probably will find it, sniff it out. But what happens if it rained, so it made the ground moist? It might have washed away things or flattened the ground a little bit, depending if things have walked over it since, let's just say, and then give it a space of 2, 3, 4 months later. If you sent a drone out then, after that amount of time and weathering, would it still be as effective detecting soil disturbance? Is there a certain lifespan, timeline of when it can detect disturbance? Yes? No? Feel free to leave your thoughts down below if you know, because I think it's an important question, okay? Soil disturbance, how long, and is there any impacts, factors, weathering, tools that can hide or hinder detecting disturbance of the ground whilst using a drone? Let me know, okay? As for this image on screen, it's not been moved. Whose is this? I've seen it on Google Earth and it's not moved since. Who owns this? I don't know. It can't be Jim Brenner's, because Brenner had a trailer and that's been taken away and not been returned since. Okay, I did a before and after photo analysis of that stuff in the land and the farm. Maybe I can provide a link to that down below as well, if I remember, okay? So, if any of you know whose RV, do you call it an RV? If any of you know whose vehicle this is, because it's a vehicle as well as a place of living, leave your thoughts down below, because I'm not too sure. In terms of the state of it, it's a bit of a mess. I mean, what's happened to the door? Why is the door all bent and shredded? You know, did someone walk into it or something? Did someone do a bloody Motel 6 in bloody Wendover and decided to headbutt the door? Like that bloody room? I don't know. It just seems a bit battered. Why would it be? Who caused it? Leave your thoughts down below. Let's continue.
Property. Dylan's family is asking the office to let go as lead on this case and have the FBI or state take over.
Who's this?
From the day Dylan's boots were found 300 yards from us, that should have changed everything.
In a statement, Box Elder County Sheriff's Office says they requested an independent review of how they've handled this investigation, and go on to say DPS.
I've not actually seen that before. Has any of you seen that boat? I don't remember seeing a boat in 2019. I know times have changed since, but why would a boat suddenly appear out there? Where would it be used? Who would own it? Do any of you know who owns this boat? Is it Kurt Wadsworth? Is it Don Hatley's? I don't know. And where would it be used? One of the lakes, maybe? The Salt Lake? I don't know. Because you've got to think of the depth of water as well, right? So I don't know if it's just for scrap or if it's Dylan's. I'm not too sure. Interesting that, because I've just not seen that before.
An independent review of how they've handled this investigation, and go on to say DPS, Weber County Sheriff's Office, and Weber County attorneys established credibility in the investigation with substantial and pertinent evidence. Still, the family would rather take matters into their own hands or rely on others for help.
It's frustrating, but it's also potentially still has a glimmer of hope. You know, people want answers. People want to know what happened. But ultimately, it's like, hey, if this was your son or your little brother, what would you do?
Box Elder County Sheriff's Office will not comment because this is an active criminal investigation, but a detective was on scene at the search Thursday. Dylan's family has received a lot of support from...
There we go, we'll leave it there. To get an idea, Heavy D seems quite hopeful. That's kind of like his personality and his traits. I guess it enables him to do what he does. I mean, even like when it came to heavy, demanding, taxing activities previous, when either looking for people, looking for treasure, whatever it may be, what he gets up to in his videos and his activities out there, physically it's tiring and requires hard work, as well as mentally draining too, like with all that digging in a small enclosed space such as that Susan Powell mine exploration. So he definitely gets hands-on, definitely. And I guess his hopeful nature in that kind of ties in with the Dylan Brown's case as well, which is something you want. I mean, some people could argue and say, well, you've got to be realistic by now because of the timing. But I guess just one of those things, everyone thinks differently. So just like with the different theories, so you just take that in mind. Final thing just to point out, I've just realised now, when you look behind that woman, you see the sign where it says Losing. Just below it, there's actually a flyer or a poster with Dylan on it. Can you see? You can see the outline of Dylan on that poster. I think that's the hunting one, because at the top of that piece of paper, you got that orange banner going across, and then there's an individual crouched down holding a gun. So I think that's the last one they did. Hunters aware during the hunter season, be on the lookout for any people or remains such as Dylan. So I think that's the latest. Obviously it gave differing information compared to previous ones. I don't know if it was that one or one before it. He actually scrapped the whole 28th when he was last heard from, which is a bit weird, and only included when he was last seen. So, bit weird that. But, you know, as Candice said, she's going to be providing some kind of new flyer at a point. I'm sure that will be posted on Facebook, and when it is, I'll share that with you. And also, speaking of which, that supposed interview with Justin, Candice, and I guess the Diesel brothers, that's supposed to come out at some point, what Candice said. Not sure from whose side it'll come out. Maybe it might be posted on Facebook as a video or a file privately, but I feel probably Heavy D might upload his own video, because he did it the first time with Candice, and that's how we heard about the key fob and gun, when there was misinformation at the start before it all unfolded. Credit to Julie, who picked up on that way back then. Also, Julie has still been inactive since with, I guess, the illness. I don't know what's going on with her. Not seen her for quite a few weeks now. And the same with Rhonda as well. She said something about a collapsed lung or something, but I've not seen her for a while, if not longer, okay? And then as for Cuppy, I guess, kind of not seen her, but she did return in recent time. Okay, so I think she's recovered from illness, or it's intermittent. As for Sunshine, if I'm saying the correct username, because it did change, didn't it? The dragon person, the German dragon. That sounds a bit odd, that, but yeah, that individual. They had a knee injury recently, but that's healed as well, I think. So I don't know what it is. A lot of people getting injured or ill. So I don't know, some kind of black magic is going on. I don't know. Weird. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see that interview, if it does come out, just to see what the body language is there, if there's any more misinformation or switching and changing of stuff. We'll see, okay? Oh, just one more thing. Before I forget, we need to head back to the Facebook page, because there was an additional post by Candice Cooley alongside that drone update, and it had something to do with Box Elder County, and I don't think it's good. Let's head back over there right now. Okay, so here is the post by Candice Cooley, which was 15 hours ago, and she says, "I don't believe it. Yet again, Box Elder County Sheriff's Office is trying to cover up their mistakes and not help with finding Dylan. If an independent review of the investigation was performed and credibility was established in the investigative work that has been done with substantial and pertinent evidence, I want to know what they investigated. So this is what we read out previous in that article just earlier on in this video. So it explains it, it ties in with what we've been looking at. And obviously Candice Cooley is unaware of what exactly has been investigated. Substantial and pertinent evidence. Is that a positive? I'm not quite sure. They're saying that credibility has been established with the work within the case. What? How? Unless it's behind the scenes and there was a case, there was a procedure, and the surface level appeared corrupt, abysmal, unprofessional, but behind scenes it was professional. Maybe that's what they're getting at, but it's hard to believe, and I can understand why Candice is like, what are they doing? It's as if, and maybe this is what Candice Cooley is thinking as well, possibly, that the independent review is possibly being biased towards Box Elder County and saying that they're doing well, they are pretty formal, they have credibility, and there's not much wrong with them, as concluded. And it's like, yeah, but we've heard and seen a different story. Candice has experienced a different side to Box Elder County. So is something being covered up? Leave your thoughts down below. Or is there something else going on which unaware of? Candice then goes on to say, why didn't they talk with the family? Did they investigate the missing key fob they found and the boots with blood on them? Did they listen to the recorded messages of lies and misinformation from Box Elder County Sheriff's Office? Where's the credibility with Box Elder County Sheriff's Office? There is plenty of proof that the investigation was not performed properly. Again, I ask the question, why didn't this independent investigation team talk with the family? Box Elder County Sheriff's Office lost their credibility months ago. We want justice for Dylan Rounds, please. And then what's this? I think this might have been from what we've read. Box Elder County Sheriff's Office said in an update Wednesday night that after a request for an independent review of the investigation, credibility was established in the investigative work that has been done with substantial and pertinent evidence. Right, so that's very interesting. So aside from obviously all the positives with like the independent groups such as the Diesel Brothers, Heavy D, the crew, and the family working together with the drone, as well as ECRisearch with their analysations and the money being able to, afford the cost of the drone, that's all good. And yet Box Elder County managed to appear in some way once again, and more kinds of dodginess going on. Now, honestly, at this point, could you say it's fair to say there's corruption going on? Okay, supposedly they've handled the case very poorly over time, and there's many different examples to demonstrate, as I've shared with you within the videos, as you've heard as well within Candice Cooley's interviews. But at this point now where an independent investigation has taken place, independent, like not a part of Box Elder County, a separate group or a separate official coming in, so there's no biasness normally, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Does some kind of review, takes notes, whatever the procedure is, and found no issues. That's kind of weird, right? Let's just say that the lack of communication and transparency was normal and that there was nothing wrong with that. Put that aside. But what about the key fob? Not exactly professional releasing it publicly, and maybe lies about the boots and them being sent to the lab. Or even, how about this one? This is more of a solid one. Does this independent investigation, are they aware that Box Elder County allowed Jim Brenner, the main key suspect, who also should have been arrested much earlier on, to be allowed on the 2nd of June to move items about in the grain shed, move the grain truck which Dylan last used, mess up evidence, contaminate, and take stuff out which could be evidence, and take it somewhere, hide it, dispose, who knows? And that was allowed at a crime scene with one of the main suspects. That's not normal whatsoever. That is not normal. And for an independent investigation to take place and say the way Box Elder County have handled things, credibility, they've done well. You call that doing well? God, I hate to imagine what it is if they were classified as doing bad. Yeah, very, very corrupt, in my opinion. Leave your thoughts down below. What do you think? Do you think this independent inquiry is corrupt? Do you think they were paid off to keep quiet? Are they working for, in assistance with Box Elder County, despite being independent? There must be something going on, because how can you ignore all that dodginess going on and that lack of professionalism? Something is definitely off. Something is definitely wrong. And this is what I mean. Whether Box Elder County have got their hands in other people's pockets in some way, they're working for all kinds of people, corrupt and not, criminals and not criminals. It gets to that point, and obviously Candice has clearly stated it already, that you don't want Box Elder County to step in as much now, if not at all. And definitely when it comes to court cases such as with Brenner and maybe other people, let's just say, if Box Elder County step in some way and take charge, they'll probably end up releasing Brenner or giving him a lesser sentence, or actually writing him off being charged with Dylan's disappearance somehow. It really wouldn't surprise me. That's my prediction. If Box Elder County get in the way of the trials, the court cases, they'll probably let Brenner either free or not charged with Dylan's disappearance, just a gun charge, a lesser sentence, so no justice. That's providing, I guess, if the body isn't found, because that's what Box Elder County were originally saying, that they've got a case, but they need the body. So, depends how it works, right? Leave your thoughts and predictions down below. I could do a quick poll right now, possibly. Do you think if Box Elder County are in charge of the court cases, or in some way, could it go downhill? Could it go wrong? Yes, no. Leave your thoughts. So, I think that's it. I think covered just about everything. Updates on the drone, the search drone for Dylan, as well as the communication between Heavy D and Candice going well. Future things coming, such as the flyer poster, the interviews video, potential drone footage being uploaded at some point as well, get an idea of that. In time, test data results of the drone and what it might have found or detected. So there is still things upcoming. Also Brenner's court trial as well, whenever that is, or if it's already happened. There's a lot to look out for, okay? And we'll see if anything else steps up about Box Elder County, because once again, they keep making the news, or like the headlines on Facebook page, right? So, as I said, that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you managed to process it. If not, feel free to rewind, rewatch this video and take it in, okay? So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. For now, goodbye.